Hello, hello. Welcome to Human Design Coffee Talk. Today we are going to be talking about our personal experience with in navigating the shattering in the deconditioning process with human design. So, welcome. Good morning, everybody. And as you're hopping on, if there's anything that you'd like to share about your design, type profile, authority. We love to know who's on, who's joining us today. Good morning. Hopping on. Neutrino Radio. I still love that. I love that Neutrino Radio username.
Hello.
Hello, 4-6 Splenic Projector joining us.
Everybody get your favorite beverage.
Yeah, it's actually coffee time. Like if there were a time of day that it's appropriate to drink coffee, which it should be all day, anytime.
All day, baby.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I did put something in the stories saying that if anybody, we are open to people joining us to talk about their experience with deconditioning. So if that's you just send us a request and if we see it, we'll get to it. 3-5 MG, 3-5 sacral MG quad right. Ooh, fun. Teresa and I are kind of almost quad right. We're 3 parts right.
Just that view arrow.
Just a little. We just got a little leftness.
Just a little. Just finished sweaty time. That's great.
Awesome.
It's Amanda, what's up?
Good morning. 2-4 generator, 3 parts right as well.
Jess.
Yeah, Teresa and I were talking about how that one little part of left keeps us like on this planet.
Like I would just be, I'm already so floaty. I don't even know how I would be if I was quad right. That's an experience.
I love the quad rights though. Love the quad rights in our lives.
Oh yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about our experience with navigating the shattering. 5-2 emo projector. Morning, ladies. Morning, Dave. Who's Dave? Who Dave is.
Probably in the chat somewhere.
Yeah. Hi, Dave. So I recall at one point reading something really profound from Ra about fractal lines and the shattering, and I couldn't find it. Oh, Dave is Neutrino Radio. Okay. And I was like, oh man, if I could find that and read that on here today to kind of like prompt something, that would be awesome. And I couldn't find it. I spent about 5 minutes and I was like,
Yeah. Well, not meant to be.
I've taken in so much stuff that I don't know where it all comes from.
We just trust that it's all in there, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, for those of you that don't know what the shattering is, that's a phrase that we commonly use in human design circles about when you first start living your design. And, you know, it happens at different points of time for different people, depending on what you got going on. For me, I would say it happened like a year and a half in, because it really took me that much time, maybe because I'm emotional and it just takes me time, but that much time to realize, holy shit, my not self has created my entire life. Yeah. And then it's like this shattering of your life that starts to happen. And, you know, it could be where you realize the job that you're working isn't in alignment with you, or maybe the career, maybe you've put a lot of time and effort and money into this career, and then you're realizing, wow, my not self chose this for me. Or maybe the relationship that you're in, or friendships that you have, even hobbies, you can realize, wow, I this isn't actually coming from my true self. And so there's a shattering that happens where everything starts breaking down, and it's kind of like rising from the ashes and starting fresh. And so, yeah, there's different degrees of that for everybody, but we both get DMs about people being like, you know, how this sucks. How do I even keep going?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny because I'm a coach, and so I take on coaching clients and guide them through that process, the deconditioning process, the shattering. And I think with a lot of coaching, you get into it and you're like, oh, I'm going to hire this coach. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to be such a awesome person and just sit in my awesomeness. I think of like the Mean Girls quote. But I find that with my clients, it's almost the opposite. It gets really, really challenging, and they almost want to give up and not keep going because of this shattering that happens. And then people are always glad that they did keep going. But it can be a really, it's like going through quicksand sometimes. It's just this it's this hard thing to navigate. So hope that makes sense for people. Seeing the personality crystal distortion as the main not self as well as my openness. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like when you realize that the mind has been making all of your decisions. It's really hard because sometimes you have to make major life changes, and they're not easy, right? You can hit some financial hardship. At least that's how it was for me. Like before I had my shattering, I was, you know, making more money than I'd ever made in my life. And I had to basically quit everything I was doing and just live off savings for a while and figure out what I was going to do next. So it's hard.
Well, because at some point you can decide, or no choice, um, to continue on that path, but you have this awareness that it's not correct for you, and that, you know, when your not self theme of whatever your type is comes through hardcore, you know, you have that knowing that, oh, I chose to go against my authority. I chose to go against, because that's essentially all it is. And I say it like it's so simple, but when when you're presented with things and you're navigating the world using strategy and authority, and then you're like, oh, sacral says no, but I'm gonna do it anyway, or but my mind wants to do this, or sacral says yes, but I'm not going to, you know. And it's just like, you are aware that you're going against the authority in your body. And so it's kind of, I don't know. There's times, I mean, there's lots of times that I've done that. I still have to really check that when I'm like, okay, you know, you get presented with something to respond to, because I'm a manifesting generator. So, and I'm like, oh, it's a no for me to continue doing that. What does that mean? Because then I get all up in my head, like I have to rearrange things. I keep thinking that I have to like do something or figure something out to like get out of the thing or do the thing. And that can be kind of a mind fuck.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something to talk about too, is like, as generators, we're here to respond. So I know this is something that I've talked about with other generators before, like even quitting your job, working in response so you don't quit your job prematurely, is that, I mean, that's how it was for me. I waited 6 to 8 months before I quit my job. It was like it entered into my awareness, and then I had to ride my wave about it. So that can be a hard one to navigate as well.
I see some comments coming in. I want to make sure we catch them while we're on the topic, whatever we're doing.
Yeah, lots of good comments in here.
MG quad right. My mind took over when I was about 20 years old. Before I didn't think, and I was as much of a quad right MG as one can be. Yeah. Yeah. Learning to wait is an art form. Yes.
Oh my God.
It is.
I'm still learning. I mean, I would say like 95% of the time I can wait now, but there's still those times where the mind just whoop takes over, and you're like, I don't have to wait for that. Like, I know I'm a yes to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And as MGs, we're like, oh, when we like hit a plateau, we just jump over it, and it's like, okay, is that my mind? Am I following strategy and authority? Did I
Right.
rate? Was I responding to something, or was I responding to myself?
Responding to myself. Oh.
Projector Emily, I'm now just having to do a more radical realignment to strategy. It's been rewarding but hard. Yeah. And as a projector too, that's difficult. I see the projectors in my life. Teresa sees the projectors in her life that really like lean into strategy, into their strategy. And that's hard when you've been in a world where you're either raised as a manifestor or raised as a generator, go out there, get the thing you want, initiate. And a lot of projectors naturally work in response because that's how they were conditioned. And so to step back from that must be pretty shattering.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Make sure. Still strong. Mama LaPlante, still I struggle with making the right choices and knowing if it's mind or splenic. Yeah. Waiting is not awesome, especially for projectors. Yes. Yeah. Current
Yeah,
trend.
and just kind of talking about like understanding the lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing too, is like if you make a mental decision, don't beat yourself up. It's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you learn. I made one like a month ago and it was like a week of bullshit after I made that decision. But I was like, wow, I really know. It was almost like I had to do it just to really see how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
Because it had been a while since I'd gone into something that way. And it really showed me how far I've come, but also I learned how that feels. It was like I got to experience that again and really have the contrast. Whereas before I was so used to making mental decisions, it was really hard to know what the difference felt like. And I think that's ultimately how you're going to get really good at understanding your authority and knowing what it feels like. Is you have to make mental decisions too,
Right.
to feel the difference.
Right. Somebody brought up the transits, and I think it's funny. It was Janesse Quad posted on her stories like what the transit looks like right now. It's like conscious. So if somebody was born, it'd be like conscious channel of struggle, conscious channel of charisma, and conscious channel of awareness. And I was like, that would be incredible.
But triple split.
But triple split, and I'm like, dang.
I mean, yeah, that would be a wild MG.
Like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
You get used to sitting in poopy diapers. Sometimes you got to run into the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Teresa, do you want to talk about kind of your process and how?
Yeah. So,
kind of just like tell us a little story.
Yeah, a little story time. Gather around, folks. Let's have a story time.
I mean, what you have 11:56.
Right? I love telling stories. It's my jam. Even though they tend to, like, probably if I had a strategic mind, I'd be better at telling them. But, this is where we're at. They go all over the place. Tangent City. So when, I would say, okay, my shattering happened in 2020. And that's when I realized, oh, I've been taking in all of this human design information. I've been studying and taking in all the knowledge, but I'm not actually really listening to my authority. And the reason being, I attribute to my completely open ego that wants to please everybody. So I definitely was following strategy. I would say I was working in response, but actually listening to my authority was harder because that open ego was hijacking me and wanting to say. I also have gate 29, which is like, I call it the yes man gate. It's just, or yes woman, whatever you want to say. It's yes to everything, and so I wouldn't my wave out. I would just get involved with all sorts of things that weren't actually in alignment for me, and then I'd be deep into something and be getting extremely frustrated. I would say I was a lot more 2020 was my year of like figuring out my spirituality and that kind of thing as well. And I was very ungrounded. And I was absolutely in transference when it comes to my motivation. I'm desire, and I was very much in innocence transference all of 2020, and getting hijacked by rogue personality crystal bundles, you know, spirit guides, whatever you want to call it. And we can have spiritual beliefs, right? That's fine. But I was letting these spirit guides make my decisions for me, which you can believe in spirit guides or whoever else you want. But if you're allowing these beings or entities to make decisions for you, and you are seeing the world through a distorted lens and transference, that's, at least for me, that was a problem. That was a huge problem. And I made a lot of mistakes. So very ungrounded, not actually listening to myself, wanting to please others. And then it was like, I don't know, 6 months into 2020, I realized, holy shit, I'm not actually listening to my authority. And this is something that I'm teaching people on, and I'm not actually listening to my authority. Now, I wasn't doing human design like I am now. I wasn't like full-time doing it. I was just kind of telling people about it in sessions and whatnot, but mostly doing healing work, like parts work and energy healing, that kind of thing. And I was getting clients that were extremely ungrounded as well, and that were giving me so much power. And it's interesting because I am mostly individual circuitry. I am here to empower you in yourself as an individual. And people were giving me all of their fucking power. And it just hit. I didn't want that much responsibility. I didn't want that much power. So it was like this culmination of things all exploding at once, of me being in transference, not really being in my desire motivation, being very much like the stereotypical kind of spiritual teacher of like, oh my gosh, we're going to channel our spirit guides, and I'm not going to take a stance on this because love is, you know, I don't know, just very airy-fairy. I'll say, I don't know how else to describe myself in that way. So I feel like I reached a breaking point where I realized that almost the entire business that I had built was built through a distorted lens. And I was not empowering people. I was not feeling empowered within myself. And I had to like break it all down. Break it all down. So yeah, it was kind of like a dark night of the soul for a while, because I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I didn't find satisfaction in really anything. There was a period of time where like nothing was satisfying for me. And I think that's something that a lot of generator types go through, where in order to call in what we want for ourselves or what is satisfying, we have to let go of everything else. We have to open up space. We have to say no to things. And so that's the place that I was in, where it was just nothing that's coming into my field is satisfying or empowering for me. And I need to let go of everything. And I need to get grounded in my body, and I need to get really tuned into my authority and what is it that my body wants. So yeah, I'm in this like weird space, even with spirituality now, where I definitely have spiritual beliefs, but it's more around energy and frequency. And it's not so much like, oh, I believe in spirit guides and I'm channeling. I mean, I haven't done that for like a year now, but I don't really have any draw to like pop spirituality. I still do tarot. I love tarot, but to me, that's like an exploration of my subconscious mind. It's not, I don't believe I'm channeling anything when I'm doing tarot. Yeah, I just don't, I don't know. And this is something you and I've talked a lot about, Brandy, but it's like, I believe in a lot of things that we cannot see, and a lot of like my open head. I'll never really know the truth about things. You know, do aliens exist? I don't really know. I'll never really know. But it's just, yeah, it's a weird space to be.
So when you were met with things, as you're like navigating your emotional wave, what were some things that helped you? You said you were very ungrounded, and when I hear somebody say that, it feels like they're out of their body.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some things that you did during that time to get out of your mind and in your body?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at the time it was just a lot of emotional processing. So I also realized I wasn't letting my emotions like move through fully. I wasn't allowing my cycles to move through, which as an emotional being, it's like if you don't let yourself cry, if you don't let yourself process, it feels like emotional constipation. And at some point it's gonna blow, but it's very uncomfortable, and there's almost like this low level anxiety that goes on in your body if you're not letting things process through. So I would say at that time I did a lot of like somatic experiencing, like just literally laying down and feeling my body, and maybe listening to something guided that's guiding me through that. A lot of a lot of like getting outside, going hiking, just like sitting in the grass
Yeah.
and just feeling my body and not distracting myself with so much like spiritual trying to solve mysteries, because I feel like before it was like I wanted the answers of the universe, right? My open head wanted to know all of the truth of all of the things, and I just started to let go of that completely and just focusing on my life and being a human, enjoying my human experience, where before I felt like I was so obsessed with things that I couldn't know the answers to and solving the mystery of life, that I wasn't focusing on my actual life and what we're here to do, which is to be human and finding magic in the mundane. This mundane reality is so incredibly magical. To even just like a plant, like plants are so magical to me. It's like you can find the magic in everything, but I had to commit to being a human. It was almost like I wasn't committed to being a human. And I still feel like an alien. I think we're all aliens, our personality crystals come from the cosmos. We're all aliens. But I don't have this obsession with that anymore. I'm just like, yeah, I fucking love being a human.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yes. All of that.
all of it. What about you? That was my tangential journey. I didn't even know that was going to go there. I thought I was going to talk about quitting my job. I feel like I've told that story a lot on here, though. And so
Yeah.
this whole like spiritual, and I was thinking about that right before we popped on. I was like, damn, I don't even know what the fuck I believe anymore spiritually.
Well, yeah, because we have that like physical real life shattering, and mine kind of like intertwines the two. So I'm in the third year of my experiment. 2020, similar to Teresa, is when I started really living my design. I had been reading about human design for a while. I'd had some readings. Sam Zagar did my first one, and I think that was the best introduction to my design. Having somebody give me a reading. Also, there's just something about those projectors. And so I was kind of afraid because I could feel it in my body that it was going to be a shift that I needed to make sure that I was ready for, make sure that I was grounded in my body. I was very ungrounded as well. And throughout 2020, I just started, I was more following my authority before I started following strategy, before, so I have a split in my chart, and I could have swore I was an ego manifester by knowing what human design is, because of I have a split in my chart, and I very much operated that way. And if I wasn't operating that way, it was very splenic, it was just like a lot of like quick no's and nope, and fear kind of stuff, and not really that sacral. I'd have these moments in my life that I could kind of ping back to see what a true sacral response was for me. And then I could kind of look at like, oh, look how like effortless or smooth things were in your life when that happened, even before you knew about human design. So for me, it was really getting right with my authority. Spent, like I said, a lot of 2020 getting in my body and just living my own design and talking to people about theirs a little bit, but not doing anything, just mostly consuming information. And it was like at the end of 2020 where I just had this moment of like everything has to change. It was just this, like, it dropped in, like everything has to change. And it was terrifying because I had created this life. I had created a business, like a brick and mortar business, not entirely from the not self. It was created from by sacral response, but the way that I was operating within it, I was not following strategy and authority. And it was like, holy shit, what do I do? Because I have tribal circuitry. I have an individual channel as well, but I'm very tribal feeling. And I was like, so I started to go towards, if I choose something differently, this is going to affect the tribe, so, and then I have an undefined solar plexus and I'm like, shit, I don't want to make anybody feel bad. I don't want to confront any of this shit. So it was like these layers of holy shit over and over and over again. And I just had to keep coming back to wait to respond. Just wait to respond, Brandy. Just wait to respond. It's okay. Like, you'd have these realizations and these awarenesses when your authority kind of wants to shift. Like if I'm a yes to something or a no to something, and my mind is all like, what all is that going to affect? And I would just come back to my body, do something to get into my body, movement, stretching, dancing, and just get in my body and wait to respond. And that for me, it was a lot of patience. I had to learn a lot of patience with the process and trusting that, okay, I'm doing this. I'm in this. This is right. This feels so right for me. But what about the tribe? What about all these people that I have along this ride with me, because I was in a position where I was an outer authority for a lot of people. And I take that very seriously because I don't want to give anybody incorrect information. And when I pivot majorly like that, it's going to affect a lot of people. So end of 2020, really got in my body. And what really was cool is, which Teresa and I kind of subscribe to a similar way of nourishing our bodies. And I really just started to nourish my vehicle, give it the right gasoline, like some people can put premium in their cars. Some people can need diesel, I feel like I was a diesel vehicle running on E85, I was just like, this is not sustainable. So I started nourishing my physical body better. I could connect to my sacral. I could be in my body. I could trust my body. And as these things started coming up in my life, like different decisions that I had to make when working in response, I felt easier about it. I had to make some decisions for myself. Like I have the, 45-21 as my split. I can strong arm and manifest anything. I can initiate and like move shit out of the way. And that's not correct for me. And so I was introduced in 2021 to a lot of situations where it was like, okay, Brandy, you can choose to strong arm this situation, or you can wait to respond. What are you going to do? And it really comes to how it made me feel. How was I going to feel long-term about it? And it wasn't about how other people were going to feel, working a lot with my solar plexus. But what happened for me is that these big situations, these big decisions that I had to make, that I thought I had to make all by myself, my mind thought I had to figure out. If I was just patient, I was actually given a situation to respond to where I didn't have to strong arm anything, and I could more gracefully, you know, I feel like that word grace goes along with this process, like giving yourself grace, the gracefulness of, with my strategy of waiting to respond. So I would be presented with these situations to wait to respond to, and then I could respond, you know, and coming from a place of response. And it wasn't like I'm the bad guy or Brandy's changing it all, or, you know, it was just this naturally evolving thing as I lined up on my fractal. You know, the things that were going to be there were going to be there, and the things that weren't were not. They were on their own, you know. And it's really difficult because the whole time I was up in my head, open head, about an undefined solar plexus, about hurting people's feelings and what's this going to look like and what's this going to do for the future, and, you know, a lot of future thinking. What's this going to do? And it's not been easy, but it's been a lot smoother, and I can get through those things. Like even right now in my brick and mortar business, tying this into what you were talking about with spirituality, Teresa, my business is a wellness center. It's a mind, body, energy center, 6,000 square feet. We have classes and workshops and all of that. And I have to be able to be behind it. It has to be in alignment with me. And so as I'm deconditioning, I'm recognizing what is and isn't okay with me. You know, what is a yes for me to promote? What isn't a yes for me to promote? And it's not from a space of judgment, but it's just straight up alignment. Is this an alignment? If this is my business and I need, you know, it's my path, I have to make sure that it feels good for me. So I'm even still presented with situations. We're doing a big restructuring of things, because it's becoming more clear to me that I need to provide the tribe. I have to take care of my tribe, and I need the tribe to understand that in the collective, but that anything that comes out of my business is just that, an outer authority. It's not to give you power. You know, no one person is giving you power. No one person has power over you. You don't need these things necessarily to fill yourself up. They are tools for you to use. And so it's kind of this interesting situation that I'm in now, but that major shattering was like back in February of this year, of like, everything needs to change. Like the foundation needs to change, you know, and I feel like we kind of get these little bits and pieces of these other little things that kind of like shatter away as you're going through it, you know, and you're like, oh, it's like these mini shatterings.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, like somebody commented earlier, like you peel the onion and you're like, okay, peeled that. Oh, here's this, you know, oh, here's this that you know, you don't realize that you've created or built something upon a not self way of being. And I just have to keep going back to waiting to respond. And Teresa and I were talking, recently we've been talking about it a lot, how I don't even think about tomorrow anymore.
Existential AF.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also, I mean, there's the, like we even talked about variable, but there's the deconditioning process of strategy and authority, which is where most of us are our first couple years, right? But then when you add on being receptive, being mostly right oriented, and realizing that you've been operating from a strategic place and been trying to force yourself into the strategic box for however many years, your whole life probably, that's a whole other shattering. When I had my first session with Brayton, and he told me about being receptive and having a right brain, right mind, and what I needed to shift in my business for longevity so that I don't get burned out from the outputting, and just the nature of how we operate. It was one of those like total shattering moments. And I think you had a similar experience where, you know, it's like we're always strategizing, and
Yeah.
that is hard to navigate being a business owner, brick
Yes.
and mortar or online,
Yeah.
and not have a strategic mind, you know?
Well, I mean, I look at all the charts. I know the charts of everybody who works in my organization. Um, and when I found out that my strategic marketer had a receptive mind, I was like, oh, fuck.
Shit.
You know? It's just, that's another little mini shattering. You're like, okay, I'm not responsible for your experiment. But now I know, like, to move forward from here, is this the best person to be doing, strategy? Is he in his, true self? Is he satisfied with this work? He also has 3420, and I'm like, oh my gosh, just slave driver strategy here. That's what I felt like. I was like, oh my God, you have these, you recognize other people's designs and you see how you interact with them, and you're like, am I like nurturing their not self? Is their not self a benefit to me? Oh shit,
Oh shit. Oh, I had just a small experience with that where I was looking for a VA, and I was seeing if I could find somebody to do trades with. And this guy came forward, and I looked up his chart and saw that he was a quad right manifester. And I was like, you want to do VA work? Really? He's like, well, like that was his job pretty much already. And I'm like, I was like, we'll see. Let's just see.
Yeah.
And we had a really open conversation about it. And I was like, he hadn't really started deconditioning when it came to being quad right. But I was like, I almost can't from like an integrity space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And literally, I think we worked together for like a week or two, and he just basically went through my website and told me some things I needed to change, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
Like, like I have to support you and who you are. Yes. And I can't take advantage of your not self.
Yeah. And just the awareness around that and what that does. Like, I want everybody to, whether they know about design or not, if I know about their design, I'm going to like nurture their nature, like our social media strategist is a quad right, or she's our graphic designer and all of that. And so she's very much was on a timeline, and I let her know, like, I don't operate like that. I don't like, you can give me a deadline to have you some stuff, but I don't even know what that stuff's going to be until I get, until it's a yes for me to do that. Mm-hmm. And I said, let's just like operate like you're on a retainer, like some months you're going to have more stuff to do. Some months you're going to have less. And I just want you to be in your flow with this stuff. Like, there's no pressure from me at all. And so I actually have a lot of quad rights in my organization. And so I'm like, wow, how do I nurture
them? Yeah.
Their rightness. Yeah.
Yeah. That's it's an interesting one. I had a thought and it left.
I have a thought. We had Teresa was just in town. She flew to Iowa where I live, and we had a meeting at my business to kind of like restructure some things and like have more eyes on the game. And I knew everybody's charts that were there. And at first it started out with 5 MGs. And it was a crazy, like, we filled in like everything except for 4 gates and a body graph with all of us together. And then like just naturally, and it was cool how it naturally happened. Like, one of them moved out. She was doing her own thing. She was my head of like client relations. And so she just kind of like started doing her own thing. And then our friend who's a 3.5 quad right projector came in like right at that time. And it was just like, the penta changed. And he came in, and it was like this amazing, he was at the front of the room at the whiteboard, like guiding all of us little MGs.
It was such a shift. It was wild.
We had like a couple hours beforehand where we could just be like, wow, all the things. And then he comes in and it's just like, and he was just like, here
And
you
he
go.
even said, I hope I'm not taking over. And we're
Yeah.
like,
Oh.
you're invited to take over.
Yeah, we were like, no, please. It was like this refreshing, you know, healthy projector energy and his rightness. And he was just kind of pulling stuff from everywhere. And what about, you know, this and tying it. And it was just like, it was just so beautiful to see how that went. And yeah.
It was cool seeing leadership in that way, because I think as we approach 2027 and after and forevermore,
Yeah.
Projectors are going to be the ones that we need in leadership positions more. But it feels like collaborative leadership. It doesn't feel like I'm going to come in and bulldoze everybody and what I say is right. It's more of just like, here are some things to consider. Let me guide this energy and keep you guys on track.
Yep.
It felt like he came in and just like put us all in like a bubble together, and then we were just like floating together. Whereas before, it almost felt like we needed that time with ourselves to like just get all of our sacral energy like out, like the excess. It felt like we were like kids that needed to just like run around and play for a little bit. It was just like, okay, let's just get all of this out. And then he was able to come in and just be like, whoop.
And then we sit down for story time and we can all like pay attention.
Yes, exactly. It's like we need a recess first.
Yeah. In that meeting too, we talked about, because my business, it works very much with like the collective energy. And so moving that into more individual, that's what it's felt like for me over the past year that needs to happen. And then on top of that, that's actually what the frequency is going to change right in 2027. So, and it was interesting having him guide us, because he kept being like, well, the collective or the people,
the community,
you know, the community, the support. And then I was like trying to explain to him why I wanted to switch to more individual, and it wasn't connecting. And then I was like, oh yeah, he only has tribal circuitry. You know, he has channel transformation, channel synthesis. Those are his only channels. And so I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense why he would just constantly be, how can we support the people?
And back to like community things, because we were talking about like the mice, what do you call them, mice nuts or
mice, yeah.
Yeah. And he kept wanting it to be like a community thing, right? Like, oh, the bread and butter of Inner Space is the workshops or the community events, and we're like, nah, the bread and butter needs to be individual services where people can feel empowered to come in and do things for their bodies to help themselves heal, or whatever you want to call it, help themselves be working in optimal form. And that's where the power dynamic shift that you were alluding to earlier is like, that's something we're all really going to feel. And I think that's why last year in my business, I realized, ooh, I don't like it when people are giving me power. Like, I don't want to make their decisions for them. I don't want to tell them what to do. I'm simply here as an outer authority. I'm simply here to give people things to respond to, invite people into things, just give them things to consider. I'm not here to tell them what to do with their lives. And I think there's going to be a huge shift. It's starting to already happen, but where people are wanting to be empowered within themselves, and they're not going to want other people to make decisions for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And having an understanding that other people are an outer authority, you know, even in my business, I was like, and here's where people could get like the manifestation thing. They could be like, you manifested that, you know, but it's just like, no, I'm just following my strategy and authority. I wanted a breath work. I specifically wanted a breath work practitioner that didn't call in any outer authority or anything into the classes, where they were like just transformational breath work, where they were like, you're doing the work, this is for you, and I'm just here to like explain to you how to do it so that you can do the work. And we were talking about that, and then like the next day a gal came in and she introduced herself to me. She was there for another appointment, and she's like, I'm a transformational breathwork facilitator. And I was like, oh, I'm looking for one. You know, it's just like, that's the fractal thing. I was like, because I want people to feel like they're empowering themselves, not that some outer like deity or being or anything is like the one that's giving them power, that is just within them.
Yeah, I think like the whole worship piece of
Yeah.
things is
Yeah.
going to start,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Like with the whole with the spirituality thing, like I mean like the thing that got me propelled on like remembering who I am back 17 years ago was a Louise Hay book, you know, and that kind of set me off. And then I just went down that path, but I realized that I was giving my power to external things. Like, oh, I need this crystal to give me this power. No, I have crystals because they're fucking cool looking.
and they have a frequency to them.
And they have a frequency, and I'm obsessed with like frequency medicine. So they just like, people will be like, what does that do? Or why is that there? And I'm like, I have no idea what it does. I don't know why it's there. I held it. It wanted to go there. I have no
Mm-hmm.
clue, you know, it feels good.
Feeling cognition.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
like understanding our cognition made me realize why I was so curious about frequencies and energy work and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
understanding things on a deeper level, the things that I am feeling and trying to like make sense of them in my open head. But now I've let go of needing to make sense of anything. I'm just
Yeah.
like you, like, I don't know, it just goes there. I used to have to be
Yeah.
like, let me talk to the crystal and see what
Yeah.
it says. This is
Yeah. And
actually my uncle from a past life, and it needs to be in here with me.
yeah.
Weird
Yeah.
shit, but
And you're just making the decisions from there and there. And yeah. I just got a ping of something that's like unrelated but related, but like with our decisions of our health, you know, speaking about frequency and
mm,
feeling cognition and stuff like that. But and also the binaries play into this, but uh following strategy and authority, even when I was unaware of it, and really listening to my body over all the outer authority and what people say you should do and shouldn't do. I've known that I've always operated that way. And yesterday I had a life insurance interview or something because I have to re-up my policy or something. And he's asking me all these questions. He's like, have you been to the doctor in the past 5 years? And I said, only to the midwife for a pap smear. And he's like, but like, when else have you gone? I'm like, never. He's like, well, what if you don't feel good? I'm like, I don't go to the doctor. Like I have other practitioners that I see, but I don't go to the actual doctor. And then he has these lists of like, I'm going to go through this list. It's going to take about 5 minutes, and you tell me if you have anything. And I said, right off the bat, I can tell you I have nothing, you know, but you can go through the list. And it was like a fun little sacral game too, because he's like this, I'm like, no. He's like this, I'm like, no. But following our strategy and authority is beneficial for our health. And I've really noticed that over the past year and a half, as far as how my authority has guided me to the things that I need to maintain health.
mm-hmm.
And somebody asked a question. I want to scroll up and says, I'm curious, what are ways you nourish your vehicle while you wait to respond? Oh, because earlier I was talking about that was one of the core things, and that Teresa and I kind of subscribed to the same thing. Now we're outer authority right now. We both follow a pro-metabolic approach to eating, which is non-restrictive at all. And it's just very balanced, you know, we just,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very balanced way. It's like feeds your body at a cellular level. So Teresa and I have both experienced issues with eating disorders, orthorexia, can't have this, can't have this. And what I found when I am navigating with strategy and authority is that I don't feel restricted. It's just if my body wants to eat that at the moment or not.
Mm-hmm.
And doing that, I've been eating wheat again. I eat meat and all of the things that I used to not eat. And I feel like I'm pretty fucking healthy. I feel like
Yeah.
my skin is really amazing. You know,
And
there's,
there's like
go ahead.
temperature markers,
Yeah.
and there's different ways. Like pro-metabolic has really, and strategy and authority, because strategy and authority brought me pro-metabolic, you know.
Yeah.
And as a fourth line, I'm like, things always come through my network. Whenever I'm like, I don't feel good, I wonder what's going on with me, it's like one of my friends, and you brought it to me, and I was like, oh, and I was resistant to it at first because it was so non-restrictive, and I was on a very restrictive, like, hormone healing protocol at the time, where I was eating beans like fucking 6 times a day, which worked for me for like a few months. Like it helped, but it got to that point where I was like, this is not sustainable. Like, I can't eat beans 6 times a day for the rest of my life. It's just not working. And it was very restrictive, like no sugar, no, you know, no dairy, like all of the things. And my body was craving those things. Like I wasn't even allowed to eat fruit on this hormone balancing protocol. And my body was just craving fruit. Like, I wanted to eat fruit all day, every day. And so, yeah, I think, you know, when this is the best I've ever felt. It's also the most I've ever weighed. But I think we are told from society, from whatever the fuck, that like the smaller you are, the healthier you are, or, you know, you can't eat sugar, that's bad for you, that's going to give you cancer and kill you. Like, all these things that actually aren't true. And I've been, you know, doing my temperature, and women, or I think men too, are supposed to be at like either like 97.6 when you wake up in the morning, and then it gradually goes up to like 98.6-ish. And before, my temperatures, when I was eating like really clean vegetables, I was eating meat, but I was eating super clean, no dairy, none of that. My temperature was like 96. It got as low as 95, I think, in the morning, which that's not good. And you're just cold all the time. Anyways, I digress. My whole point in saying this is just, we have to reprogram what health is. And when oftentimes, talking about cravings, when you're craving something, I wanted to see this. I wonder if it still works. You have a lifetime of eating poorly, maintaining poor health, but you want to eat healthier and lose weight. I don't know. For me right now, like, weight loss is definitely not even, like, I just don't care. I'm like, my body's going to do what it needs to do. And I have more meat on my bones right now. But I also feel the most energy I've ever felt. My skin is clear, my hair, my nails are growing like crazy. I don't know. It's just where my body wants to be right now.
Yeah, someone says, damn, my body temp has been super low my whole life. My husband used to think it was a superpower to have a temperature of 95. You know, it's just that's just another piece. No matter what you're eating, you know, things with, you know, our primary health systems and all of that stuff. But it's just a marker, like, is your vehicle taken care of, you know?
Can you hear your authority?
Can you hear your authority? I couldn't in that state that I was in before. I wasn't eating meat. I have a defined spleen. I was craving meat. My body was craving it, but I was like, no, in order to be this spiritual person, I can't eat meat.
What?
And then I couldn't hear, and then I was just operating like either ego manifestor or splenic.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really important piece too. I actually wrote that down. Feeding the body so you can hear your authority. And I think that's why determination is important. That is a piece of it, of course, but determination doesn't solve everything. You know, especially my determination is nervous. What's that?
Yeah. I said, especially if you're just diving into your experiment and you're like, okay, I'm going to just eat cold thirst everything right away. Is that a mind decision, or did your, you know, depending on your strategy, did you use strategy and authority to get to that piece?
Right.
You know,
100%.
all of those other things, they just kind of fall into line. If you're following strategy and authority and you're consecutive, likely your authority is going to lead you to a more consecutive way of eating, you know? Like, same, I'm cold thirst. Will I eat cold beef stew? Yes. Why? Because my mouth waters. My body like screams for it if I look at it in the fridge and be like, oh, that is so delicious. Like, my body's like cold beef stew. It's weird, but Or I could just go against that and be like, well, I need to heat it up because everybody heats up beef stew.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point to make is like, if you're going to experiment with your determination, are you following your authority?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is your authority telling you you're ready for your determination? Most people have naturally been doing it. Like your mom would talk about you wanting cold salad as a
Yeah.
kid and just wanting cold things. I think, especially as children, as long as our caretakers don't try to like change our way of operating in that way, which I'm nervous determination, and I would always want to be like eating on the go. You know, I'd like grab my breakfast to go with me when I was little. My mom would say, no, like sit down and like
Yeah. Yeah.
basically like calm down. And I'm like, no, I want to be like moving while I'm eating, you know? So I had a little bit of reprogramming to do around that. But at the same time, like I've pretty much loosely been following that just naturally. It's my body just wants to like, you know, one of the things is maybe like eating a little snack before you eat when you're nervous determination, or passive brain, to get your body like prepared to give it that stimulation. And I've always done that. Like I'll take bites when I'm cooking, get my body prepared. But even if I wasn't eating the correct foods, like the things that my body was craving, meat, you know, potatoes, butter, fruit. And it's just so funny because when I found Pro Metabolic, everything that they were recommending are things that I was craving. And I told myself I couldn't have. And it wasn't like junk food. It was literally like orange juice or just fruit or a potato with butter and sour cream on it, you know?
Yeah.
But I told myself that wasn't bad. And now it's like, oh my gosh, it's so incredibly nourishing for me.
So here's a bit too, you know, we get excited about learning about our determination and things, and we're talking about shattering, and we have these big shatterings once we start doing our design and following strategy and authority. And like there's no rush, but imagine like the double whammy shattering that would happen if you tried to, in your mind, not even shattering, but the complicatedness of it. If you tried to be in your mind about your determination while trying to follow your strategy and authority, it feels overwhelming to try to do that and figure it out right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think, you know, there's so many layers to it. Like I was talking to my friend Sarah about consecutive determination because she's consecutive, and consecutive I would say is one of the hardest determinations to follow, like eating one thing at a time, just eating very simple, like primal. And when she first found out about it like a year ago, she was like, no, I love to mix all my food together, you know? And but then we were talking about it and realized like, oh my gosh, like the trauma that we experienced as kids actually also affected the way that we ate, you know. And she wanted comfort foods when she was a kid, and so comfort foods is like pot pie, you know, it's like things that are mixed together, usually like casserole, and it's not, you know, just one thing at a time or just the very primal component of it. And so it launched into this whole conversation about like, wow, it's so interesting how like our conditioning runs so deep, even just to the trauma piece of it.
Yeah.
It's more so than our parents trying to control us. Even it's like, oh, what was I trying to control for myself as a child? Because food is something that kids often, it's like the only thing they feel they have control over because their
Yeah.
parents make all of their decisions.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to eat the way that I want to eat. And it's just a control thing. And so once you realize, oh, it's actually better for my body's communicating to me that it wants something different, but you know, my trauma and my programming is wanting me to make one decision. It's just a whole other shattering.
There was a comment I want to touch on. Mama LaPlante, that's true. My children are naturally aligned. I am the one that's off, I guess. And it's just conditioning. Like, give yourself grace. There's that word again. Give yourself grace. It's just how we've been conditioned to eat. You know, what was helpful for me when I realized my determination, I was like, oh yeah, like that's what I always loved to do as a child. You know, like if you could touch back in a place in your childhood where you were like had a meal that you made or that you like a snack that you had, like if you think about that, there's a high chance, or how you were able to eat depending on if you're, you know, nervous, calm, low sound, high sound, chances are you were already aligned to your determination as a child, and it's just how you were conditioned. So it's just a deconditioning process, and it takes some time, and you don't have to just like snap into your determination. Just follow your strategy and authority.
And it'll happen, it'll happen when your body's ready. And, it's not that your body, like, yeah, I don't know. I think some people think like, oh, if I'm not following my determination perfectly, I'm not living my design. And it's like, no, it's all part of the experiment, and it's all the right timing for you. And that looks different for everybody. Ooh, the vegetarian myth. I haven't heard of that book. All I know is I was vegan for almost 3 years, and my gut was so effed up.
Yeah.
So effed up.
Yeah, I was super skinny though.
Right? I know. I see pictures of myself. I'm like, whoa. But I look healthy now. And that's the way I look at it. I'm like, yeah, I'm the biggest I've ever been, whatever. But I look healthy and I feel great. And that's really what matters. And so there's just so much, there's so much programming around like small equals healthy. And for some people, some people are naturally that size.
Totally.
And their body will naturally just get to that set point that it wants to be at. And then we also go through phases with the body. I don't know if I'm going to be bigger or smaller or whatever. My body's just going to do what it wants to do.
Yeah. And if you're at whatever size and you don't have any underlying health issues, then that's health, but when I was tiny and vegetarian and vegan, I had hyperthyroid. My resting pulse was like 125. It's insane, So I wasn't following my body's innate wisdom. I wasn't listening to my authority. I was just like, this is what I need to do. And then I would like initiate my entire family into that, So that's a whole layer too, when you are like a head of a household type and you're, hey family, we're all doing this now. Follow my way, and not their own way of doing things. And now everybody in my household eats differently, and it's fine. I mean, we sit down for dinner sometimes, but it's not mandatory. I had to also get that out of my head, like the conditioning that you're like, that's family time. Sitting down and eating together is family time.
Yeah, what if somebody's like low sound or calm and they need to eat on their own,
And our environments play into this too. This morning, it was kind of funny because I could feel my husband was like wanting me to sit by him at the table, and I wanted to sit at the breakfast bar because the window's right there, and I just feel like that's more my thing. That's where my body wanted to be. And he was like sitting at the table, and I was like, I could feel that you want me to come over there, but I don't want to come over there. And so I chose to stay where I was because that's where my body wanted to be,
It's such a good conversation.
Yeah. Teresa and I are very passionate about the body.
Yes.
We're very passionate about health and the body and getting in your body. And so a lot of our, we connected a lot on, everything. Like the first time her and I talked we were in a class together, and then her and I started like voice noting each other a while after that. It was like, everything was like this. And we're like, yes. The body. Yes. What's up with spirituality? Yeah, that, all of it.
Oh my God. That was like the first conversation I had where I was like, I think it was you were like one of the first people I told that I didn't want to be like spiritual anymore and that I was questioning spirituality. And you were like, me too. And I was like, what?
Yeah. And so, and even within that, like following our strategy and authority, and we're fourth line, so we're in our network, but lining up on that fractal, then we had this natural support for our shattering moments. We had these, and also not being attached to that, like codependent, but just like this healthy support while you're navigating these experiences. And so if you're in your design and in your experiment, and not a lot of people around you know about human design, just keep doing what you're doing, and that support will come in, and don't think that you have to hide your experiment or hide what you're doing, but communicating with people about what you're doing, why you're doing it, you never know what that's gonna do. Like informing people around you of why you've decided to only eat during that daylight, or why you need to have headphones in while you're studying or something like that. And just be like, you never know who you're gonna kind of pull into your fractal.
Yeah, totally. I think that's really important to have that support system, even if it's just one person that you're voice noting with that lives across the country,
Yeah.
because that's a lot of things that people ask me about is like, I feel like I don't have any friends now, or I feel like it's almost like, when you have that, what we would consider a spiritual awakening, the shattering is kind of similar to that, where you just feel really disconnected from everybody in your life. And it's because you want to speak this language with people. You want somebody who sees you. You want somebody who understands you. And it can be hard when you don't have anybody. But, I found the community on Instagram, as controversial as it can be sometimes, there's really great people in here. And this is a really good space to find those people that you can support each other throughout this journey, especially if you're kind of in the same space, if you've been in the experiment for the same amount of time. Human design is spirituality, though. Well, the spirituality I'm talking about is like the pop spirituality. Like when I was like with my story earlier about just being really ungrounded and being just like, oh my gosh, light codes and channeling and whatever. And I think I actually challenge a lot of spiritual beliefs, like mainstream spiritual beliefs. And human design is not a belief system, whereas spirituality is a belief system. You can believe in whatever you want to believe and call it your spirituality. Yeah. And I respect everybody's beliefs, and I don't think mine are right and yours are wrong or anything. But for me, human design is not a spiritual belief system. It's science. It's the science of differentiation. It's something you actually go experiment with in this mundane reality, and you don't have to believe in it. You can actually not believe in it at all and still experiment with it and just see what happens, right?
Yeah. It's a cellular transformation, human design is, and living in your design is. And with that too, I would challenge that it's more mystical.
Yeah, mystical.
Not spiritual, once you have awareness of any part of your design, it's like you can't unsee that.
Yeah.
It's not like I believe that I am a sacral being. That is,
It just is. Yeah, exactly.
It is. I could try to believe that I'm not, and I don't know how that would go, but
yeah. Spirituality is a byproduct of being mechanically correct. Yeah, I would say we align with, okay, when I think about spirituality now, I think about the knowing that there is something bigger than me, that I am a part of something bigger, that I don't know everything there is to know. I think about that we are all frequency. There are certain beliefs that I have now that human design has only pushed me into further in that understanding. It's kind of like just that surrender to what's bigger than me. Mm-hmm. And I think that can look different for everybody. So,
and recognizing that what human design has done for me is given me the awareness that those things are outer authority. Mm-hmm. That ultimately I still have my decision maker is within my body.
Yeah. I mean, what does the word spiritual mean anyways? That would be interesting, because I think like the word spirituality has gotten distorted, or there are some distortions of that word. Does the word spiritual just mean like the acknowledgement that we are a spirit having a human experience? What's a spirit? It's like we can start wondering about all of these words and kind of questioning things. And so to me, like the spirit would be like my personality crystal having this human experience in the bioform, so yeah, that's just, we could go in circles talking about that, but
open head,
right? To me, all of that is part of the same thing, different modalities. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think this is just where I'm at in my journey right now, but there are certain modalities to me that I just don't resonate with anymore at all, just because if it's not getting me in my body and helping me with this mundane reality at this point in time, I don't know, I just don't feel a need for it. That could totally change. Like I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just in the present right now. So
yeah, a lot of it what I noticed when I reflect back, a lot of it took me out of my body even further. Even if they were practices that were to get you in your body, I'd still have to like get out of my body to get in my body. And I was like very ungrounded.
Yep.
And like and it sometimes it was like so much of a to-do thing when you could just like go outside and put your feet on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like there's beauty in ritual and ceremony.
Totally.
But I more want my whole life to be ritual. I just want the feeling of my life to just flow like that instead of having this thing that I have to do to maintain my own innate wisdom and power in my body.
Yes.
I don't want, also I'm receptive. I don't have like, if I had to like plan something like that every day, it would just not be good.
No, maybe if you had gate 5, it's like, I don't do like the spiritual rituals, except for I do tarot when I feel called, when I'm like pulled to my deck, and it almost keeps my mind busy while I'm waiting. At this point, like any spiritual practices I have are just keeping my mind busy while I'm waiting to respond to things or while I'm riding my wave.
Yeah.
And I do like to meditate, but to me, meditation is putting on some music and like dancing, or putting on music and just like laying and letting my emotions flow, or playing guitar or writing a song. Meditation is like creativity to me as well. I like what Emily said here. I felt I had to exit my body, see the edge of the universe to come back in and be able to feel the pinprick of humanity. That's very poetic.
Yeah, because we are humans we have a human experience. If we're not meant to, we wouldn't be in form.
Right. Exactly. But we're always shifting and changing, and that's just where we are in our experiment right now. And if that's not where you're at, that doesn't make it wrong. Again, strategy and authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And specifically as generator types, well, all types, but like while you're waiting, just do things you enjoy doing,
Yes.
And there's no shame in that game. Just do things that you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you find out if you're receptive? I have a post about it on my Instagram page that says tips for receptive minds. And if you scroll, it'll show you on the chart where you figure it out. Yeah. Passengers in a vehicle. Absolutely. If anything, I feel like certain spiritual practices can help you just accept that and surrender to that. And I do find that for me, the most helpful spiritual practices were the ones that got me to surrender more and like let go of the mind. So whatever that is for you, whatever helps you surrender, whatever helps you not let go of the mind, but let go of making decisions from the mind and just become more aware of your mind and your body and all of those things, that's what's going to be helpful.
Yeah. And things come into play, like what we think we need to do. Cause somebody just brought up, and generators need rest too.
We're great at resting.
We're great at resting because we're right environments, right?
Oh, but we love to loaf.
Like if we tell a left environment person that they, like rest when it's more natural for them to be active in their environment while they're resting, so there's all these different, ways that we can even be conditioned within human design to think that we have to do a certain thing a certain way. Mm-hmm. And so that's why just ultimately living your design, following strategy and authority. Likely my authority is going to tell me that loafing is a yes when I'm low. And watching people with left environments move around. And if I'm like, just chill, like sit down, like rest, they might listen to me as an outer authority versus listening to their body, which wants to participate in the environment a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah. That's the thing is I think projectors are really good at resting once they've deconditioned their sacral, but I've seen a lot of projectors that do not know when enough is enough. And my sacral just will not let me continue. When I'm done, I'm done. I'm like,
Done.
I'm loafing, I'm resting. You know, when we went to that conference, that human design conference, Brandy and I were like tapping out quicker than everybody. We were just like, peace, we got sacral done.
Yeah. Yeah. And when Teresa was here this past week, so my husband has a thing going on with his body right now where he has to like sit more because he has tremors and stuff. But he is left environment, and so me and Teresa would be loafing on the couch and he'd be there, and I could feel that he was like, what, like he didn't want to be like on the couch, but his body is like making him be on the couch right now. And it was just interesting because it felt unnatural for him to be loafing on the couch with us.
Yep. I was like, why do I want him to get up right now?
Yeah.
I want to watch him.
Yeah. Like, we got nothing to watch. We got dogs.
Oh, it's so funny.
Learning how to rest has been a process for me. Yeah, that too. When you realize that, you know, you think you have to be busy, your mind wants to, you know, I should be doing something, I should be doing this, or, you know, just wait to respond to something. I'll be loafing on the couch, I'll look over the dishes. Nope. Okay. Nope. I'll do them later.
Don't have the energy for that now.
When Sacral says yes, I'll get them done and it will be amazing. But right now it's a nope.
Yeah. It feels like moving through quicksand when you're trying to force your sacral to do something. I blame my defined root with 8 gates. Oh my gosh. I don't know how many I have defined, but I find, at least in my experience, defined root makes me move real slow. And I don't know if that's if you were saying it makes you move faster or slower, but my defined root, it's like, it takes its sweet damn time. My undefined root husband, he's on it. He's never late for anything. He's always like on it. I'm the one that makes this late.
Yep. Same. And then I'm like driving fast to wherever he needs to go. And then he's like, whoa, he's like, you don't have to. And I'm like, no, we're going to be late because of me. And
because of me now. Because of me. Slow ass route. We are great travelers for 15 billion years. Only recently have we had a planet to stand on. Enjoy the ride. The only way through. Self-forgiveness. What a long, strange trip it's been. Totally.
Yeah. I love that you brought up forgiveness, because that's huge in the deconditioning process, because we can shame ourselves once we start realizing who we are as our true self, and then we look at how we've created parts of our life and our not self, and there could be a lot of shame around that. And forgiveness, one of my favorite forgiveness practices that I don't do it regularly, some people do, is that Ho'oponopono. It's just like a Hawaiian forgiveness practice, and it's just 4 sentences that you just repeat to yourself, and it just kind of brings stuff up. But forgiveness is huge.
I'm curious, do you look up to the left or right when you think about people's design?
I look to the right.
To the right, yeah. You think that's like right mind?
I don't know. Somebody was talking. Were you talking about that? I feel like that's been in my awareness. Somebody said that the other day.
Oh, Jen did.
Yeah.
Interesting. Defined roots have their own pressure. Yeah. So it's like, it feels like a very different experience when I'm witnessing my own pressure versus someone else trying to pressure me. Right? It's like when I like to think about when I'm in the grocery store line or something, and I need help with something, and I'm waiting for someone to come over, and there's a line, and I'm just like, I can feel my own pressure to like move at a certain pace, but I'm not feeling pressured by these people in line behind me.
Mental pressure though is real.
With the open head, yes.
Somebody said something. I was going to comment too on when you think about people's charts, do you look to the right? I also noticed that when I'm like getting like inspiration, or hit is what I call it, it comes from the right. Like, it's like, what was that? Like, am I going back and like pulling it, grabbing it?
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling complete. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling complete. Does anybody have any questions or any comments that they want to add before we get off? Yeah, if you want me to walk fast, I'll walk so much slower.
Defined root. Defined root with an attitude. My favorite kind. Oh, well, this was so much fun. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah.
It's been interesting because 1858 is my only channel, and my body definitely needs a lot of activity. Left environment. My partner is a 3420 with undefined root right environment. He needs to be busy but doesn't need as much body movement as me. Oh, interesting. My husband's left environment 2034. And he's always moving around, always doing something.
Any comments on low sound, like what you can do to like encourage that? There's these things, what are they called? Loop. These earbuds where you can put them in and you can still hear it. Like they look like regular earplugs and then they have a little circle around them and it like muffles everything around you. Yeah. And sometimes low sound is just like not necessarily quiet, like calm. It's more like what is the frequency?
Like you might like softer music, for example, that maybe doesn't have as many instruments in it. Maybe just like a harp playing or, you know, just one or two instruments, because you can think about it as like low, almost like low frequency versus high frequency. My brother's high sound and his fiance is low sound. And my brother likes to be having a lot of like complex information coming at him. And they were joking around because they're not even really like experimenting or anything. I was just telling them about their designs. And he was saying he loves listening to like an audiobook or something when they're eating dinner. And she wants like meditation music on or just something really mellow. And he's like, no, I want like complex information. He's also a software engineer. So you think about like how complex that is. And it's like a lot of detailed complexities all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just interesting thinking about it more as like high frequency or low frequency. Or
I noticed the other night we went out to dinner, my daughter's high sound, and she kind of is like she doesn't eat enough. She's quad left. She definitely doesn't eat enough for her brain. And I'm like, where's the environment that she needs to be in? But we were out to dinner at a restaurant. It was busy. There was lots of people talking. There was music playing and there was TVs on. And she ate her entire dinner. Like like it was not a big deal. And I was like, and she's markets environment. And so I was like, interesting, you know, to like witness how it was just like, no big deal. And I'm like, we got to recreate that somehow. As my brain as a parent is like, because I want to make sure she's nourished. And she just went ham on some Spanish octopus, which that's a no for me.
Spanish octopus?
No. Yeah. I'm like, no. But yeah, it's interesting how that can play such a part.
Totally.
You miss anything? There's something about hating white noise. I don't know. I guess there's gates that relate to the ears. There's so many different things. Somebody did ask if people know about like PHS. John Cole is one person that I know that's really well read in that. He's a certified analyst. He's with the Human Design Collective. Yeah. The YouTube videos that are like restaurants. That's a great idea.
That's good for me too. I was nervous.
She always has an earbud in, and maybe I'll be like, let's try this and see how environment becomes the factor post Saturn. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's so cool to see everybody's all the little nuances of design. People are living their design, and that's what's cool about it. And that's what you have to remember is everybody's so differentiated that we make sure that when we get on here and talk about our experience, it's just our own experience with things. Rainy day cafes. Oh, Human Design Now, certified PHS in rave psychology. Awesome.
Well, there you go. There's somebody for everybody in the chat.
Fourth Line Network.
Steven. Cool. Well, nice to meet you, Steven. It's good to know we have somebody to send people to, because I don't know a lot about PHS. I know the basics.
I don't know your design. I'd love to know what your design is.
All right. Well,
4-1. Cool. 4-1.
Do you have your design on your page, Steven?
I'd love to chat sometime about PHS.
Yeah. I don't know if you like to come on camera, but if you'd want to join us on a live, that would be awesome.
Oh, quad left.
Oh, hell yeah. Emotional generator. Oh, you're genetic yoga. Okay, I've heard of genetic yoga.
Yeah, me too. Where have I seen that? Did you have a human design or a page called Genetic Yoga?
There definitely is one.
I think I've seen it. Yeah.
It's all coming together.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'd love to have you on sometime, Stephen.
I think a 4-1 with the knowledge of PHS would be cool. Any first lines, they just, I have a lot of first lines in my chart. So if I weren't to know my design, I would think I would be like a 1-4 or 4-1. But with how much I'm like, investigate the things.
Deep dive in.
Studied with Ross since 1999. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Awesome. That's cool.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
So for those of you that won't see the comments in the replay, it's Human Design Now or Genetic Yoga. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. This one went on. This one was a tangential journey.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
Cool. Well, love you guys.
Talk to you later.
Bye.